Hey, we're here with brothers Goldsmith of Dawes, Taylor and Griffin. Thanks so much for taking the time, guys. Really appreciate it.
Having us.
Yeah.
I remember back in April checking out your appearance on the Craig Ferguson show and thinking, yeah, I could dig these guys. And I picked up the record like the next day, or I emailed the publicist the next day and said, I got to get this record. How big a break was it for you guys to play a national TV show like that?
It definitely helped. There was definitely like a lot more turnout, I guess. A lot of people coming up to us at shows, like saying that they liked our performance on TV, so definitely helped.
What's the Laurel Canyon sound?
I mean, the Laurel Canyon sound, we weren't even aware of the mysticism behind Laurel Canyon when we were recording our album.
Right.
And we made this record based on things that sounded good to us.
Right.
Thinking not as much about our influences and tapping into that, just thinking about what felt good. And then afterwards, people were like, "Oh, you made a real Californian record, real Laurel Canyon record."
Right.
And then we're like, "What does that even mean necessarily?" And then people showing us, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Jackson Browne, certain Warren Zevon records. It became Neil Young. It became clear like that we were. I mean, you know, we were fans of all that stuff, but not. Definitely not strictly, and definitely not nearly as much at the time. Like I'd never really listened to as much of a huge fan I am. I never listened to Jackson Browne or Warren Zevon before making North Hills, and so I feel like in an interesting way, there's something about the area, or maybe just the environment or the upbringing in California, that finds its way into your music, regardless of. You being aware of it.
Yeah, to me the record sounds like the band's Big Pink. I mean, there's some live moments and there's the piano and the harmonies, and that's where I guess the Laurel Canyon thing comes in, right? Is the harmonies and the great songwriting and all of those sorts of things.
Thanks.
There seems to be and I talked to the guy from Edward Sharp about it, but there seems to be this thing going on in SoCal about, you know, I don't want to say like indie rock or like indie folk, but there seems to be a revitalization of that kind of music in that area that you think it comes from Northern California, but really Southern California seems to be having this sort of thing go on right now.
Yeah, it seems like there's a return to songwriting and in a traditional sense.
Right.
That is pretty exciting right now. A lot of people that are tapping back into things. I mean, I feel like there's a community developing, and within that community, that you know, if people are going to someone's house and people are picking up guitars and playing together, it's not like you're going to sit around and play Radiohead songs necessarily. As incredible as a band like that is, like I feel like when music gets communal, it like then comes folk music, and that's sort of the definition, I guess. So it's a lot easier to play three chords and you sing Neil Young songs and Joni Mitchell songs and Bob Dylan songs, and then bringing back a certain culture than it is to have everyone play together and have it be some out sort of progressive kind of thing.
You can't program synthesizers just sitting by the fire, right?
Yeah. I wish you could.
Donkeys are from San Diego. They're south of you, but they're a band that I was turned on to. That sounds. Do you know the Donkeys? They're also from they're from San Diego, but they all have a similar sound to you guys, which you should check out when you have a chance. Let's talk a bit about the record, because I mentioned that to me it sounded a lot like Big Pink, and I think there's a couple reasons for it. One, you count songs in. Was some of it recorded live off the floor?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah, we just had to, there were certain things we couldn't do ourselves, but just being the four of us, so we had to overdub like guitar solos and organ on some tracks. But yeah, all the basic tracks were done live. Yeah,
live vocals with each take and stuff.
Was that important to you guys to just do it? Do you think that's a more authentic way of making a record than?
I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, like we just made our second record that won't be coming out for a while. But with doing that, it was different in certain senses and the same in a lot. I mean, like in order for our bass player Wiley and Griffin to have like a moving performance, a lot of times that depends on that like exists because they were able to do it together.
Right.
And then, you know, in certain cases, like if they nailed it, but I like, you know, screwed up a word or something, you know, we should be able to like go back and fix that sort of thing. But with with North Hills, a lot of that was that we only were able to record for 2 weeks because we didn't really know our producer at the time yet, as well as we do now, especially. He became like he was doing us this really wonderful favor, but we also knew there was a time limit, so we were like, we need to get this done as fast as possible. And so there was definitely pressure to work fast. And so while things are still done live, we were able to take more time with it and pick and choose what should remain live and what will benefit from maybe readdressing.
Harmonies are all done live though, right? And how much practice goes into that stuff?
Fair amount of practice. We actually have to track those after the fact. Yeah,
because like having like if he's singing from the drums, there's like a cymbal right there, the big old vocal mic, like it'll end up getting rough. But harmonies is the hardest, for me at least, like the hardest thing on stage.
Right.
Because I feel like, you know, if you know your guitar's in tune but you can't hear it that well, like, you could still have a sense of where you're at. And I feel like that goes for most playing, like for most instruments. But when it comes to singing in tune and then blending with two other guys, and like, you know, monitoring your volume and stuff like that, it could be very easy for that to sound bad.
How much of the writing do you do on your own, and how much of it is collaborative? Like,
I write all the songs by myself.
Yeah.
Just like acoustic guitar and me just writing words, and then we arrange it as a band. Like I mean, there, you know, again, it's pretty simple traditional rock and roll approaches. So it's not too part oriented, but at the same time, just all of us agreeing on like the right feel and the right arc and dynamic level. That's something that we always do together.
Young musicians being on ATO Records, I mean, how awesome is that you're on, you know, a record label that's run by a musician, right, Dave?
Yeah.
And how active is Dave in?
We unfortunately, like, the ATO has been great, but we never have met him, and we don't know how involved he's been actually, but we do know that because of him, it is definitely a very artist-friendly place. Like when we got there and knowing that My Morning Jacket was there, that was a big deal to us because they weren't blowing up after their first album, and ATO is proud of the fact that they stuck with them and they developed them as a career band. And now they're in the ideal position of being able to put out whatever they want and have their loyal fans being willing to give it a listen. And so ATO hasn't at any point like gotten really down on us for not being Edward Sharpe right away or anything like that. Right. They're very willing to work to work alongside us and build the band slowly and patiently, and realize that this kind of music that's the only way it would be able to work.
Right. You recorded music for the new record. Are you playing some of that stuff live already?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we won't hear a new record till when? Like May?
I think May.
Yeah, probably April, May.
Yeah.
And you're just touring now? Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're doing. This is, I guess, more or less the last tour for North Hills.
Right.
It's our final like end of the year headlining tour, and then that'll be the end of that cycle, and then we'll be doing stuff, you know, February and March, and then sort of getting ready for the next release, and then in May.
A young band like yourselves, though, has to be on the road, right? Constantly, you're constantly touring, whether it's in support of Northern Hills or the new record. You guys are always.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time because for a while, you know, less and less records being sold, because of, you know, the age that it's all in. It sort of meant like every band needs to be on tour, and we're ready and willing to do that. We have a great time on tour, but then also everybody sort of arrived at that same conclusion at the same time, and so now everybody's on tour.
Right.
And it's definitely something that we've noticed across the country through all the bands that we are friends with and stuff. Like, what are happening to our ticket sales? And I feel like a lot of it is because there's 5 awesome bands in any given town a week, and so people are having to make decisions. So I think even that there's gonna be an interesting shift in even touring. I think that bands will start touring a little more creatively and but then also I think certain bands that are a little upset about the new nature of ticket sales, they might buckle and break up. But but I think it'll be. I think like it's I guess it's an ever shifting world, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Great. What are you guys listening to? I mean, with all your traveling, you're in the van. Are you listening to anything cool?
Yeah.
We had some James Brown on today.
Cool.
Been listening to some Bob Seger recently.
Right.
Some Allman Brothers on. We
Yeah,
kind of
Allman
just
Brothers.
always
It's always changing.
changing.
But you're in that It sounds like you're in that Americana pocket, right? With
Yeah, definitely.
With, Seeger and Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for the record and for taking the time, and can't wait to hear you
man.
play
Thanks
right
for
now.
having us.
Thanks.
Right on, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
nice meeting you.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.